Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down how a company took one of the most repetitive daily chores we all face and turned it into a massive, multi-billion-dollar logistics empire. Yep, this is the story of HelloFresh. It all starts with this one question, doesn't it? That dreaded daily question? Well, three founders in Berlin, who, by the way, were not chefs at all, decided this wasn't just an annoyance, it was a huge problem just waiting for a solution.
So think back to about 2011. If you weren't ordering takeout, dinner was just this cycle of frustrating chores. First, you've got the mental load, the sheer exhaustion of just deciding what to make. Then there's the time sink, that hour-long trip to the grocery store after a long day at work. Then, my personal favorite, the waste chore. You know the one. You buy a whole bunch of parsley for one recipe, and the rest just kind of turns to green sludge in your fridge. And finally, the boredom chore, making the same spaghetti or chicken and rice for the 10th time.
Now here's the key. The founders came from the world of tech and finance, not the culinary arts, and that perspective was absolutely everything. They didn't look at dinner and see a food problem, they saw a logistics problem. Their core insight was that people actually want to cook. They just hate the incredibly inefficient process that has to happen first.
Okay, so this brings us to phase one, the apartment MVP, which is all about proving the concept by doing things that absolutely do not scale. This is maybe the most important phase of any new business idea, validation. It's where you find out, as cheaply as possible, if people will actually open their wallets for your idea.
And to test their idea, they used a classic concept from the startup world, the minimum viable product, or MVP. Now, this isn't about building a perfect, polished company on day one. It's the total opposite. It's about figuring out the simplest, cheapest, scrappiest version of your product you can possibly offer, just to see if people will pay for it.
And this is exactly what their MVP looked like. Their very first factory, it was their apartment in Berlin. The founders themselves came up with the recipes. They personally went to the local market to buy all the groceries, then they'd sit around their living room, manually portioning out garlic cloves and soy sauce into little tiny baggies. And then they personally hand-deliver these boxes to their first 10 customers. I mean, it's completely unscalable, but it did the one thing it had to do. It proved, without a doubt, that people would pay to have this problem solved.
So, let's move on to building the machine. We're going to see how this thing goes from a manual, apartment-based operation to a crazy, efficient, data-driven powerhouse.
Their journey at first wasn't about some fancy tech. It was a pure operations problem. It started with them just trying to survive what they called logistics hell. From there, it evolved into building a powerful data engine, which then unlocked this crucial pivot to offering choice. And finally, that led to the brand portfolio era. And I really want to drive this point home. For the first few years, their success had almost nothing to do with their website. It was all about mastering the cold chain, this incredibly complex system of insulated boxes and ice packs and delivery networks that you need to ship raw chicken across an entire country and have it show up safe to eat. That was the real business. So once they had the logistics figured out, they built their real competitive advantage, a massive data system. See, after every meal, customers would rate the recipes on everything: flavor, difficulty, cook time. With millions of these data points pouring in, they could accurately predict which new recipes were going to be a hit. For example, they learned that a 20-minute, one-pan Mexican-inspired dish was a guaranteed winner every single time.
But this might be their single biggest breakthrough. In the early days, everyone got the same box. You got what you got. The whole game changed when they used their logistics and data power to offer choice, letting you, the customer, pick your meals from over 20 different options every week. That gave people control, and it dramatically improved retention, which, believe me, is the absolute lifeblood of any subscription business.
All right, the machine is built, the product is solid. Now it needs to be fed. This is the growth phase, and for HelloFresh, it's all about a powerful, self-reinforcing flywheel.
You've seen the ads, you've heard them on podcasts, you've gotten them in the mail. Their growth strategy is built on just hyper-aggressive, discount-driven marketing. They flood every channel you can think of with these almost irresistible offers for a free box or 60% off. The hook is the voucher, and the business model is actually pretty simple. They are completely willing to lose money on your first box. They've done the math. They know a predictable percentage of people who sign up for that freebie will stick around for 2, 3, maybe 4 full-price boxes. And that's how they make back that initial cost and then turn a profit.
So, what happens when the market gets crowded with competitors? Well, HelloFresh didn't just compete, they went shopping. They acquired brands like Green Chef to capture the organic and keto niche, and they bought EveryPlate to serve the more budget-conscious customer. This strategy let them own all these different segments of the market, all running under one big operational roof.
And all of this creates their unstoppable growth flywheel. The aggressive acquisition brings a flood of new people in the door. Then, the data-driven menu and the power of choice helps keep them subscribed longer than any competitors. And all of it is built on a foundation of operational excellence, which leads to higher profit margins, which they then pour right back into more aggressive marketing. And the wheel just keeps on spinning.
So, after that incredible story, what are the key lessons here? What can we really take away from all this?
First off, solve a chore, not a passion. While this whole thing looks like a product for foodies, its real value is just convenience. It removes the tedious, boring daily task of figuring out, shopping for, and prepping dinner. Takeaway number 2. In a subscription business, retention is everything. Getting a customer in the door with a free offer? That's the easy part. The entire business falls apart if you can't keep them around. That's why their recipe data and that menu choice feature aren't just nice little perks. They are the core competitive advantages that keep the whole business alive. And finally, number 3. Your business might actually be a logistics business, not a tech business. Let's be honest, HelloFresh isn't really a tech company. It's a cold chain logistics and food manufacturing company that just happens to have a really good website. They won the whole meal kit war not by having the coolest brand, but by being the most brutally efficient machine out there.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, right? HelloFresh took a universal, repetitive chore and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar business, all by solving the logistics behind it. Which has to make you wonder, what tedious problem, what daily friction in your own life is just sitting there waiting for you to solve it?